What's up everyone, Dylan here. I wanted to hop on and do another episode of the weekly analysis video. I just got back from a little vacation, so going forward, expect these videos on a way more consistent basis. And some weeks going forward, I will post kind of like a bonus video, so definitely look out for those as well. I'm going to start off where we left off last week. I'm also going to get into key areas to look out for. Key context to look out for, my overall thoughts about the market, and we'll go from there. So let's hop right into it. So in the last week's video, I talked about how I entered into a short position. The short position ended up going well. I was expecting more from it, but I followed my predetermined plan, and I had to stop out of the remaining lots. So we talked about this critical trend line, and that was part of the reason as to why I entered that short. You could see it tested it for a third time. I almost, top ticked that short, right? So essentially, I did catch a pretty big move off of it. Like I said, I was expecting more, but my best scale was about 125 points to the downside, which in an uptrending market is pretty damn impressive in my opinion. My best scale, like I said, was at 49.40. I posted it in the Discord, and you could see if we plot 49.40, it was right down here. So I entered right near that trend line, and that was my best scale, and then I stopped out of the remaining contracts on the way up. But overall, I caught 71 points on that ES drop, okay? So going forward, that was my only short position of 2024. In the very near term, I am looking to take another short on SMH, okay? I have not entered. I've been closely watching it. I'm looking to take some puts on it. And basically that's what we're gonna, get into talking about. Now that NVDA earnings are in the rearview mirror, okay? NVIDIA has absolutely put on a show this year, okay? It is, if you take out NVIDIA from the market, I genuinely believe that the market would not be where it's at. So you basically have a single stock or a single sector, if you want to use the whole semiconductor sector as a whole, propping up this market in plain English, okay? And by no means has NVIDIA not performed well. In fact, I have an email. This is from Charlie Bolello. He's got some really good charts. He's on Twitter. But you could clearly see that NVIDIA's earnings report is phenomenal, all right, or was phenomenal, right? Their revenue, right? It's up 265% year over year, right? They beat estimates, right? You scroll down. Their net income is up 769% over the last year. Like, these are crazy numbers, right? Net profit margins continue to expand, right? So, it's not like they're rallying on nothing, right? They are absolutely outperforming. They continue to have crazy expectations, and they continue to top those expectations. However, like I said, now that the earnings are in the rearview mirror, I am starting to look at kind of, the market getting heavy, okay? And as a result, like I said, SMH is the semiconductor ETF. I have been looking at that for potentially playing puts in the near term. So we'll get into that. Another thing I wanted to show you guys was some fun facts. Let's see. We have it right here. You guys could pause that. I thought these facts were pretty crazy. Pause it, and you'll see just how, powerful NVIDIA has been in regards to leading this market higher. Those are some crazy facts in there. So we will get into that at the end of this video in terms of the specific SMH. I also wanted to go over what's happening in the S&P and the NASDAQ right now, kind of what to look out for in the near future. So you have the DXY. We've gone over this inverse head and shoulders, right? We had a nice breakout, okay? We went over that already. now it's very important to see that the retest back at that neckline got bought. I mean, almost perfectly. If we stretch that out, I mean, that's you can't get much closer than that in terms of perfection. So the higher DXY goes, tends to equate to the higher rates or yields go. Okay, so and that being said, the higher yields go usually means it's more pressure on the overall market, especially tech names and small cap names. Okay, so TNX, right? Ever since it hit 5%, it's been on a decline. However, over the last couple months, it has been able to kind of uptrend. Now, you could come at me and say, hey, well, Dylan, okay, TNX has been uptrending over the last 2 months, but so has the S&P and the NASDAQ. Yes, like I said, the semiconductors have been a large proponent on how the S&P and the NASDAQ have been rallying higher. Okay, so there are other factors that come into play when you look at the overall market being up. Okay, I'm just saying that this can start becoming a headwind as or if and when it goes higher. Okay, it's not 100% the only factor involved, but it can start being a problem if it does continue on an uptrend. Okay, so it's been in a pretty tight range between 435 and 425. So me personally, I will be looking at those two extremes, 425 to the downside and 435 to the upside. If TNX breaks 435 to the upside, right, that previous swing high that it just made on February 22nd, if that gets broken above and yields continue to sustain value and push higher, it's not good for the market. NASDAQ, S&P. On the flip side, if TNX breaks below 425, that might take some pressure off of the S&P and the NASDAQ and allow for dips to get bought more easily. So I'm definitely looking at this TNX, especially, like I said, because DXY held on that retest. So it's still, it still could be a problem, very well. So definitely look at that. Okay, we still have crazy divergences happening on QQQ, right, and the S&P, right? If we look at the relative strength index, right, we still have a crazy, declining RSI relative to an uptrending market, right, which basically tends to hint of a reversal. Obviously, it hasn't yet, but it's the longer it goes on, the more you wonder, like, this is getting a little top heavy. Okay, I also wanted to cover 5 different points, right? This is pretty interesting. Since October lows, okay, since the October lows to the current moment, the S&P is up 20%, okay? 20%, okay. I found 5 facts since those October lows, right, the S&P has rallied 20%, and I basically, have written down in front of me what has changed since then. And relative to what has changed, is it justifiable that the S&P was able to rally 20%, right? So, since October, since those lows, the market went from expecting 7 rate cuts in 2024 to now 4 rate cuts, okay? So, technically, that's not good. Yet, the S&P has been up 20% since then, okay? Going on. The S&P has rallied 20% in that time period, while the 10-year yield, which we just went over, that's TNX, has only declined from 5% to 4.25%. Not even a full percentage point, yet the S&P's up 20%, okay? Inflation metrics have only drifted slightly lower. There's a fact here. The core PCE price index has only been slightly better, with year-over-year inflation declining from 3.39% to 2.93%. So yes, inflation metrics are drifting lower, okay? There's no argument to that. However, for the S&P to rally 20% in just 4 months and inflation metrics only slightly drifting lower, makes you think, okay? Going forward, expected earnings have declined since then, okay? So since October, earnings expectations have gone from $245 to $250 per share on the S&P 500 EPS, right, in 2024, to now currently being $243 per share. So yes, you're still seeing solid earnings growth, but not what was priced into the market from October. So what was priced into the market from October was 245 to 250, okay? Right now it's at 243, so it hasn't necessarily gotten to what was expected back in October at those lows, okay? And then going forward, economic growth has only been stable, right? The growth has not gotten much better since then. So basically what I'm saying is I still believe the market is top heavy, okay? Could I be absolutely wrong? Yes, 100%. However, these facts make me believe, it's only a matter of time. But, let's see. I also shouted out JC Parrots on Twitter. All-Star Charts is the at All-Star Charts. He's got great stuff, and he continues to post other, red flags in the market in terms of, different divergences and stuff like that. So definitely keep an eye on those. He's got some great stuff. So let's look at SMH. SMH, where are you? Okay, so I still have my drawing. SMH is in this channel. Okay, literally what you do is it's up here. It's called a parallel channel on TradingView. All I did was connect the two lows, right? The trend line, two lows at support, and then it automatically does the same exact parallel, in terms of angle to the upside. So you can see to the upside it has 3 tests, 1, 2, and then it just happened again at 3. Looking back, I wish I entered the puts on that date, but in plain honesty, I did not. So I'm still looking, okay? Another thing that I wanted to say is for NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA has this area of previous resistance before it managed to, freaking gap up above there on their earnings. I want to potentially see NVIDIA come down here, hopefully get bought, right? Hopefully get defended. And then what I'll do, hopefully, ideally, like I said, I haven't done anything yet. This is just a hypothetical. If that does get bought, I'll look to slowly add into puts on SMH, and hope for a higher or a lower high to form, right? Something like this, where that test gets bought, right? Comes up and then makes a lower high relative to that high, and then continues lower, okay? Will that happen? Who knows? But if something like that looks to be happening, what I just went over, I will scale into SMH puts because, like I said, it's getting very heavy, right? The market has been being held up substantially from the semiconductor rally. And with NVIDIA earnings in the rearview mirror, I feel slightly better putting risk on the table after the fact. I personally would not have done this before NVIDIA earnings, because at that point it's just a crapshoot. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to cover are the update on the equity holdings, right? January 23rd, I did a video similar to this, going over 3 different stocks that I was accumulating, and I gave the different reasonings behind my my thought process. So if you are interested, you could watch that. One of them was Coinbase. Coinbase has been an absolute beast, right? So I essentially said to enter in between this general area, ideally, right? Because it was a retest of previous resistance, which then I imagine to act as support. You could even raise this a little bit too to make it a little bit cleaner. You could see it came right down to retest that previous resistance, which then turned into support. And since then, I'm going to do it from the top of the trend line because no one's perfect. It's up about 70% since then. So I know a lot of people in the Discord caught this. So, that's been, it was cool to see. The other 2 things that I was accumulating was China names, FXI and KWeb. So they've been doing pretty well since my video as well. KWeb, right? I made this video right around there, and I said to add if it dipped between that candle and the lows. So you did have an opportunity to add on KWeb, which I did. And since then, you're up about 7%. Same with FXI. Same exact thing, right? KWeb's essentially the NASDAQ of China, and then FXI is essentially the S&P of NASDAQ, or of China. So since, the dip occurred, let's just say, you're up about 8.5%. So those went very well too. And then Tesla, this was crazy. I went over this in the last video, I believe. I think it was the last video. One of the videos, I talked about this parallel channel, right? So the same exact tool that I used for SMH earlier in this video. Came right down to that line and bounced perfectly. So it's up about 15% from that support test. So hopefully you guys watching this caught it. I also gave a heads up in the Discord as well before that test occurred. It's cool to see that some folks caught it. So going forward, I am looking at shorting the semiconductor ETF. I have not done it yet, but I will keep y'all posted. And, I'll see you probably at the beginning of next week, either Sunday or Monday. But that's it from me. Peace.